It's podcadzo.
Do you have any tattoos?
Yeah, I've got 4.
Are any of them visible?
Nah, I've got 3 on my leg, 1 on my side.
Okay.
Nice. I just got my side done like 2 weeks ago.
It wasn't that bad.
Nah.
The artist said, she was like, "Are you sure you want to do side? Like, it hurts a lot." And I thought the ones I've got on my legs hurt way more.
Really?
Yeah.
My calf was tough, but like I got.
Can you bring?
I had this little guy.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And
I
I was prepared for war.
Uh-huh.
Like, I brought like
You thought it was
snacks and
gonna
like
be
water
awful.
and like my headphones, but it wasn't bad.
That's good. The next one I want to get on my leg is a cactus because I have like a Western theme going on
Cool.
on my leg. And the cactus was the first one I wanted to get actually, but I ended up going with the donkey instead.
Nice.
So I love donkeys.
Classic.
Yeah. Julian, you probably have the most tattoos out of both of us, eh? Do you have a count on how
No
many you
doubt.
have?
I did count recently because someone asked me, but I can't remember what the number is. It doesn't matter.
Upwards of 20.
I think it's right around 20. It might be like just over 20.
Did you started like right when you started
right
18?
at 18.
Yeah.
On my 18th birthday, I got my Radiohead tattoo, and looking back on it, I probably would have gotten a different tattoo on my 18th birthday instead.
I'm in the same
That's
boat.
good.
I got my family crest tattooed on my back like the day I turned 18, and it was fucking brutal.
Yeah.
And now it's like the tattoo I think about the least.
Yeah.
for sure.
What's your family crest?
It's
What's your background?
my last name's Galloway, so it's like
Uh-huh.
Scottish.
Okay.
So it's like a blue and yellow like lion
Okay.
shield kind of thing.
That's pretty sick.
Not only are we both named Collin, but we're both from Scottish descent.
Dude,
My last name is Orr, which
That's
comes
crazy.
from McGregor
okay.
because
I wouldn't have put
Huh.
that together.
Yeah.
That's weird.
the McGregors, when Scotland was invaded by England, they became like a warring clan because they're fucking with the English soldiers too much. So it became illegal to have the last name McGregor. They'd literally like kill you on sight if you were like part of the McGregor clan. So people started to take different parts of the name, and that's where Orr comes from.
Okay.
McGregor Orr.
That's crazy.
I knew there was a reason I kind of wanted to
Should I be
fucking
sitting like
kill your
this?
whole family.
Yeah, I think you're good there, dude.
I think
Is
you're
the
good
mic
right there.
comfortable? Maybe raise it. Yeah, point it up towards you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Right on.
Whatever feels comfortable, brher.
Well,
All right,
we're
well,
going here.
Good introduction there.
Yeah.
Everyone, this is Collin Galloway. Now you know his first and last name.
Hello.
His
Hopefully
ethnic
that's all right.
background.
Do you guys want to hear my joke now? Since there's 2 Collins.
Yeah,
Let's hear it.
All right. So since there's 2 Collins, since I don't want it to be confusing, for sake of ease for the rest of the podcast, I'm just going to refer to you as bitch.
It's not very funny.
Duduns.
I didn't want it to be funny.
I don't know if you should call that a joke.
It is a joke. I just
was
didn't
waiting
want it
for,
to be
like,
like
a setup,
necessarily funny.
and a punchline.
I mean,
Even if afterwards you had said, because you're such a fucking bitch or something like
no,
that.
that I don't want to. Okay, bitch. So anyway, Collin, I want to start off by saying I'm very excited to have you here, and I think he's also very excited to have you here.
Thanks
Dude,
for
I'm
being
very
here.
excited to be here.
I'm
Thank you
comfortable
for having
saying
me.
yes. I'm comfortable saying I'm way more excited to have you here than he is, and
That's valid.
fair.
and I'm perhaps the most excited about this episode of any episode I've ever been excited about because we get to talk about some shit that hopefully both of us really like, at least shit that you really like. We also get to talk about something that I really like, and I know you like it too, Aleister Cowboy. And for anyone that doesn't know, Aleister Cowboy is a Fort Collins local band. What would you say your genre is?
Death metal.
Death metal? Okay.
No frills.
I would agree with that. It's it is the best death metal to come out of Fort Collins, I would say, ever. It's absolutely barbaric. It's so heavy, but it's also very intricately thought out. I think one thing that a lot of kind of modern heavy metal lacks is kind of the same thing that most like modern music is lacking, which is just that it's all kind of playing off of itself like a little bit too much, and is like it's almost like for the culture, like people are releasing heavy metal for the culture of heavy metal, and there's almost like a meme culture kind of built into that as well. And so a lot of it's just like somewhat derivative and somewhat repetitive, but everything that you do is completely like organic and unique and just a breath of fresh fucking air.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, dude.
Because we kind of just like don't really try to do that at all. We kind of just combine all the shit that we like into like making music that we would want to listen to.
Totally.
That's like a cliche thing, but I think that's like super important when like creating any art, like whether it's like a painting, like if you're gonna paint something that you wouldn't hang up, then what's the point, you know?
And I think the interesting thing about it is you simultaneously remind me of so many different bands, but also it all is through like the lens of what you guys are specifically, which is the combination of, I honestly don't know how many of you in the group I kind of wanted to ask. But before I get into that, I'll just take it even further back than that. How did you guys originally like meet? How did you meet the guys that are in Aleister Cowboy and Girls? And when did you really know like that was the lineup that was going to be
where
Aleister
did the name
Cowboy?
come from?
So there's 3 of us right now. There's Maddie. He plays guitar, does some vocals. There's Raina. She's lead guitars. And then there's myself, and I do vocals and drums. And I met Maddie through my current partner, Nevi. They're friends with Maddie's partner, Arlo. And through them, we went to a Gate Creeper show, actually.
Nice.
Like 2 years ago at the Marquee. And we like really hit it off because we discovered that like each other's partners like death metal, basically. And we got to go to a sick show. And then after like a couple weeks, Maddie hit me up and was like, yo, I have like 5 songs written, basically. I'm trying to like start a band. I was like, heck yeah, basically. Yeah, this is my first like official band. So I've been playing instruments for a long time, and I've just been jonesing for this opportunity. So
Totally.
it was super nice that it worked out this way. And Maddie knew Raina from being in a band. He's in Gone Full Heathen with her. She does guitar and vocals in that band, and he used to play bass in there. So we got her to hop in just from them knowing each other, which was really nice because she's a great player.
Yeah, she's fucking shreds.
Great
She's
mind like of music. We just like
yeah.
Good
Well,
understanding.
The guitar melodies that are on the EP are so great. Like they're like pretty striking in certain spots of the EP when some of those lead melodies come in. Yeah.
And I remember, well, I might be misremembering this, but I thought at some point, kind of at the beginning of Aleister Cowboy, you had mentioned that one of, if not like both of the other primary songwriters didn't really necessarily have like a full metal background. Like they kind of came from a more like indie / like alternative.
Yes, Maddie. This is Maddie's first death metal band. Maddie's been playing in bands for like a really long time in Fort Collins and Phoenix, and just like indie kind of bands. He was in like a surf rock kind of band, and probably like a handful of years ago, he just started digging in deep into some heavy music and just became infatuated, and then wrote this like EP basically, which is Relentless Repugnance, which is what it turned out to be, and
came out just recently.
He came at me with some riffs, and then we shopped the songs, and it turned out to be what it was.
Hell yeah. So when you guys originally formed, there was a vocalist, right?
Yes, our buddy Joe Kester from Oros, formerly of Oros, I should say.
And then he moved, right?
No,
Or
he just left the band.
he just moved on.
Yeah, he had other stuff going on, other projects to focus on,
And there was a
we
little
really support and respect his decision.
Totally, absolutely.
Love Joe.
And there was a little bit of a, like, I don't want to say struggle necessarily, but there was a little bit of a hang time there where you guys weren't necessarily sure if there was going to be another vocalist. You took over on vocals as like a temporary thing just for some shows.
Yeah, we Joe left the band. We had a show, I think. He left it probably like on a Monday or a Tuesday, and we had a show that Saturday. And we would have had 2 practices before then. So we kind of panicked and were like, what do we do? And kind of just like shopped it around at who could play and do vocals at the same time. And I ended up being the one who knew who could do it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it for that show. And none of us like knew how we felt. There was like no person to capture energy up front, which was kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
And just the struggles of playing 2 things at once. And it kind of just stuck because we would just like practice that way, because it's kind of just hard to find people, you know.
Yeah, totally.
It's pretty wild that of all the players in the band, the drummer had the easiest time of doing vocals and playing at the same time.
Yeah,
It's
it
like-
doesn't necessarily seem like the thing that makes the most sense, but then when you see it, it does.
Yeah.
Are you... Because I remember kind of from the outside of it at the time, you were not necessarily sure if you wanted it to be that way. Like, you didn't know if you wanted to continue to do vocals and play drums at the same time. Are you happy that it like worked out that way in the long run?
I totally think so. I think it's a blast now. But when I was taking that position to learn songs under pressure,
Totally.
it wasn't necessarily as fun, and it felt like I was like had a strict deadline for something
It's like more
outside
so
of my repertoire to do.
totally. It's more so just having to learn it for the sake of being able to play shows.
Right. But now I love it because I can I just love being a part of like every like possible step along the way of the writing process, like whether that's words or riffs or whatever, and it just gives me like more availability creatively, which I really like. I really like being a part of stuff.
Well, and you also the vocal space that you occupy is genuinely like amazing.
Yeah.
And
Dude, thank
I still, not to make this sound like a fucking insult, but I still listen to these songs and I still really like kind of struggle in some ways to think like, wow, that's Collin, because you occupy, I mean, you're down in that low guttural register that, I mean, so many metal vocalists really strive for but can never fully get there. You're like comfortably there as like your default, and you're still able to break into such a powerful mid-range scream and even like a high range, and you also project your voice super differently depending on what the song calls for. And I think that it just shows a lot of vocal maturity like very, very early on. Especially considering, that it was just like not necessarily the way that things started, but I, from the outside, am super glad that you wound up in charge of that, because the energy that you carry is so unique and so refreshing and just like fucking invigorating within all the songs.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm super glad it happened that way too, because I love, just like I said, like just doing everything. So like I've never, like, I've always just practiced doing vocals just because like it's like a fun thing to do, basically. And I never had thought of like being a vocalist, but yeah, it turned out. I think it turned out
and
all right.
It seems like something you honestly were striving for from the beginning.
That was going to be my question, if you had experience on vocals beforehand, or if you like felt comfortable going into it.
Yeah, I've never like tried like doing vocals. I've never been in a band before, and I've just like tried to sound like people I like to listen to.
Yeah.
Just learn from there. Watch little videos.
Which is also cool because, again, you sound not really necessarily like any of your influences, even though I can tell, or not that I can tell who your influences are, but I can just tell that you are influenced by death metal and thrash. But it's like you still have a totally unique approach to it, which is just super impressive.
Thank you.
So this, I think you are kind of already answered my next question, but it sounds like Maddie brought like most of the original kind of first ideas forward for the songs.
Yeah, Maddie had like the bones for sure and the riffs.
And
a lot of the riffs.
What like ratio who like contributes to the songs once, the riffs brought to the room? Who's kind of like contributing to the ideas and the riffs and trying to build the songs off of it? It seems super collaborative.
I'd say mostly Maddie and I. Raina obviously has input, but mostly Maddie and I, because we practice the most together with our free time. And yeah, it's like Maddie will have a riff idea and then he'll bring it to practice and we'll try to just make a song out of it, like just lay some drums down, see what feels comfortable. It feels like what complements the song the most, and shop it from there. And if we have to like switch around parts, we'll do that, or shift stuff ever so slightly to make it like possible.
Yeah,
it's always an option. It's super fun to do that.
Yeah,
it just comes like really natural. Like
it seems like, because a lot of the riffs are pretty refreshing and unique, but a lot of them definitely come from kind of a classic like heavy metal background, where it's like these are very much heavy metal riffs, but what like makes them seem different and just a little bit more thought out is, from my listening experience, it just seems like you guys definitely pay a lot more attention to like the individual parts of the song and like the way that it's structured than perhaps some of the other heavy metal artists do. And I think that might come from, not to speak for you guys or whatever, but that seems like it might come from Maddie's larger palette of musical influences and backgrounds, where he doesn't necessarily approach it as necessarily just writing heavy metal songs every time.
Yeah, we very much write like sit down and write riffs like with the intention of like, this is an intro riff, this is a verse riff, this is an in-between verse riff or whatever, like into the next section that doesn't repeat or whatever. Like even if the riff doesn't repeat, we still will think about it in just like a standard songwriting kind of way, just because it's simplest to do that. And like, or not simplest, but it's just like it happened. It like I can imagine it in my head. Like if we have like a jumble of riffs and we start playing them, I can kind of just hear in my head what order I would want them to be, like if I was in the audience. And then I already have the drums in my head just because I listen to so much music all the time. Like I can just hear a riff and be like, oh, this would be sick to do like a skank beat, or this would be sick to do kind of like a triplet on the ride cymbal kind of thing.
Yeah, the amount of ways that you break the drums up and go into multiple different very interesting places is super cool too. And I think that is interesting because, not to say that drums aren't like your first instrument, because like you've been playing drums for a long time for fun and shit. But being that you like, it seems like you are more comfortable, or your more default would be like guitar or whatever.
Totally.
It seems like the way that you can meld all sorts of different drum influences into one like cohesive part is super cool too. And I think that is interesting because, yeah, you don't necessarily take the approach that like a classical heavy metal drummer would take, where it's just like insert as many notes and fills and impressive technical shit as possible into a song. Like
the fills are like where I feel the least comfortable,
and there's a lot of great fucking fills on the record. Like,
thank you. I try to do like as little fills as possible, honestly.
All the fills
And
are
just
very
hold it down.
tasteful and very well done. They're all very solid. I think it's a huge testament to your performance and also the dude that recorded you guys, because the drums are phenomenal from start to finish. But
shout out Trey,
yeah,
from Like Minded Company.
And I wanted to ask, well, so I guess before I ask that, I did want to know where the name Aleister Cowboy comes from.
Totally, yeah. It's Maddie's partner's like kind of stage name. It was like an idea for a stage name, and we all just thought it was kind of sick, and they just proposed it,
It
and it
is
was
sick.
like, oh, it's like a gay satanic cowboy.
Yeah.
Hell
That's
yeah.
kinda fire.
No, I love it.
Especially for the type of music you play, it fits amazingly well. It's
I
great
feel like
name.
we all look like that too. So
And who designed the logo?
that was Gruesome Graphics.
Okay.
It's a guy who does a lot of death metal art. He did he's done work with like a lot of smaller bands, but he's also done some pretty crazy ones. Like he did Cattle Decapitation's logo back in 2009 when they redesigned it,
That's crazy.
which is really crazy.
It's such a cool logo.
It is.
It fits it fits the vibe of the songs, and I mean just the vibe of you guys so well too. And I think you guys have a very cool, it's not like you guys necessarily do too much to play into having an image, because a lot of bands focus pretty much entirely on trying to have like an image, but the image that you guys do have for yourselves is really sick and also very cohesive. Like online, everything that you released to tease this, and all of the photographs and just the artwork that you had done for this is super good. And the merch at the show the other night was like just some next level fucking
Dude,
merch.
thank you so
Like,
much. Yeah,
it all looks so good.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It's like we try to be as like cohesive as possible without looking the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Without it seeming like you're trying too hard.
totally.
Yeah.
We don't need like, we want to look cohesive without wearing costumes.
Right.
And we also don't want to look like a bunch of other bands
Totally.
on stage.
Which you guys definitely don't.
And
I
then,
think it's really nice because, like,
Let's see the back of
again,
that.
not to like shit on all, not to shit on metal bands or anything, but like a lot of the metal bands try to just cultivate exactly the same kind of stage presence and experience throughout the show. But I feel like your guys' approach is super different, and you guys are a lot more into just playing into yourselves on stage and making like a good group
Totally.
thing happen on stage first, and the audience just reacts to that naturally, because audiences will always react to a group that just plays really well to like each other on stage.
I also really love like we definitely do like the traditional kind of stuff, like the syncopated headbanging at parts.
Totally.
Because like you got to do that if you're in a death metal band.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
Well, and
It's like a part and
yeah.
everyone's going at the same time.
And everyone in the audience is doing the same exact thing too. It's
This
like
has such
you-
a great energy.
Yeah, you drive people to
that's
do it.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's honestly, yeah, very, very good. And I mean, a lot of metal bands, a lot of bands in general that you go see are like trying to stoke the audience the entire time, and it never really gets there. It feels forced. But it's like the complete opposite when you guys play. It's like you just do your thing, and the audience just wants to engage with it like naturally. And
We definitely try to do that. I'm not like a super big fan of talking on stage, really. Just like well, yeah, just like we try to let just playing speak for itself, or
And it
at
does.
least
Mhm.
that's how I think about it. At least I don't want to speak for anyone else, but
No, it absolutely does, and it's super impressive because I've been in a bunch of bands where it's like you want that to be the goal, and it never really quite gets
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But it gets there with you guys like every single time.
dude, thank you.
So yeah, I wanted to ask, how did you guys kind of link up with Trey and like just the overall 10 to the chest?
So we
Shit.
really just hit him up because we fuck with 10 to the chest a lot, and they've just been putting out all their music independently for like the last couple like year or so, and they put out a song on my birthday this year called Lambs to the Slaughter, and we're listening to it and we're like, man, like this production is like we want, like if we were to do something, it would sound like that. And that spawned like, oh well, we should just hit Trey up, and we just DM'd him on Instagram, and started talking from there.
That's
and
awesome.
got everything booked out, and we recorded the EP in March of this year.
And it seems like, based on just the 10 to the chest universe and your guys' universe, it seems like there would be some chemistry there off the bat. Was it like, did it seem like the right thing to do right away, or was there kind of like a trials and tribulations moment where you were like,
Oh
not
no,
exactly sure?
we hit it off immediately.
Fuck yeah.
Just knowing death metal and stuff like that, and he also has a extensive hardcore background, and just that kind of stuff definitely helped have chemistry. But he's also just a really nice guy, really honest with stuff. Wasn't gonna sugarcoat anything, and also pushed us to like do our best. I feel like that's what everyone says, but
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people say it, but it's not always. Yeah, it's not always true.
I don't say it about you, Julian.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We don't feel that way, so why would we say it? You.
I would never say that.
Yeah, fuck you. Anyway, bitch.
but yeah, it was.
Yes.
We knew just from the type of music that 10 to the Chest was that he would do what we wanted to do justice.
And how much did he contribute towards like overall production? Did you guys just go there and have songs like done and then you just recorded them, or did he help with production?
He threw in like he changed one part on this build up kind of thing, and like he obviously had input, but we pretty much just came and tracked, and then he mixed it because we had been playing so many shows before then that we had like we played a lot of shows before we tracked, probably like 10 to 12 shows before we tracked. So we knew the songs like front and back, but he definitely made some parts like sound better on a recording and not just like the live setting. Like he definitely captured some parts differently that sound better.
So how long was it between you guys forming and like maybe your first show, between you tracking the EP?
So Matt and I got together and started jamming in October. And then Raina came in probably November or December, and then we played our first show in January.
Okay, so it's really only like 3-4 months of jamming
and then
before. Okay.
Playing a show in January, played a handful in February and March, and then tracked at the end of March.
During that time, were you guys talking about, or did anyone want to like release an EP, or did it just kind of come up?
We knew we wanted to do an EP because we had about 6 songs in our like first set list written, but we knew we wanted to do like a 5-song EP for sure. So that was always the plan, and then we shopped around for producers for a little bit, and ultimately just ended up on Trey, and then we pulled a trigger on a date, and then we made it happen.
Nice.
And went in and recorded it finally.
And I mean, not to like reiterate this whole thing again, but you kind of you broke onto the scene in like a really big way because you played so many shows and like you got a lot of hype built around you, and then you went like straight into the studio, and then I mean there was a release pretty soon after that, considering you just recorded it a few months ago, and we got a copy of it sitting on the table right now. Like it was very quick, kind of like inception, and you also broke out onto the scene in such a way that like people like wanted a release by the time the release came out, where I feel like a lot of other bands, local bands especially, it's kind of backwards, where it's like you put the release out in hopes that builds some stoke. So did you guys feel, I mean, I'm sure the answer to this is probably no, but did you guys feel any sort of like pressure from like the scene or just yourselves to put out like something good, or did you just kind of know that the material was going to speak for itself?
It was definitely pressure because every other band is so good. Like Fort Collins just has so much good music, and like the heavy music is very, very good also. And so it was that, and it's myself and Maddie were both really hard on ourselves when it comes to this, just because we love it so much. And I felt kind of self-conscious about playing shows without having anything released, because it was like everything was riding on that whatever performance was playing that night, because no one had any other context on you know. But that's also like a kind of hardcore band thing to do, which I really like. Just like play the show and have a kick-ass show, and that be the focus.
Only as
and
good
then
as your
put
last
out like
show.
a demo or whatever.
Yeah.
And not just like put out something first. So I definitely liked that we were able to build like some homies and some connections early on before we put anything out, and then put it out with some homies already there for us, which was
Totally.
really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like that.
the support that you guys had by the time this thing came out was immense, I would say. You have like everyone in the scene behind your guys' backs, and it's all just because the material speaks for itself.
We also try to be really nice.
Yeah, which that always helps as well.
We like
you guys
being
are
nice
all
to
very
everyone.
nice, and
I love meeting people.
Comes across.
I love making connections with people and just playing shows with bands we've never played before, and
Yeah.
meeting new people. And
you break out of the scene in ways that a lot of other heavy bands in general might not. Like, you play with bands that don't necessarily sound exactly like you.
You kind of have to in Fort Collins, especially being a death metal band, just because the pool is pretty limited. But we'll play a lot of shows with like hardcore bands, and we played a show with Foreign Words. That was our choice, so that was a lot of fun. But it's you kind of have to just like play for kind of bands that already have their thing, because the death metal thing is just so small, and like I feel like the mass support in Fort Collins isn't there quite yet.
No, it's definitely coming back.
But everyone in bands is super cool.
It is a dope.
Everyone's super cool with us.
Yeah, it's a dope community for sure. And I do sounds, or I used to do it more often, still a little bit. But I'm a sound guy at a few venues around Fort Collins.
Nice.
Like in the Mission stuff too. It's like a well-known thing amongst us that like working with hardcore bands or like heavy bands are the coolest people to work with, and it's the best and most respectful audience. And I get those questions, like people will ask like, oh, what's the craziest show you've ever done, or like, worst band you've ever worked with? And it's always like the fucking Kind Vibe jam bands that are just nightmares, and like they destroy the venue. It's just funny, the perception that a lot of people have of like heavy music and stuff, that it is like the people are going to be aggressive and not like really kind, dope people to be with. So
I feel like the heavier it goes, the nicer it gets.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
some reason.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not always the case, but
Yeah, there's some dicks in the heavy scene. Not the Fort Collins heavy scene. I'm pretty sure everyone in the Fort Collins heavy scene is.
I've not
pretty
had any bad
genuinely amazing.
experiences.
Yeah, but just
you get people,
heavy music,
of course,
you'll have some assholes.
in anything.
But yeah, that's every genre. That's just people in general, brother.
Yeah.
People suck. But this question's kind of basic, so I'm sorry, but just bear with me. What kind of, if you could shout out like a few just overall like musical influences that you guys as Aleister Cowboy had or have throughout, what would you say they are?
big ones for myself for Cowboy, I would say Cannibal Corpse. I would say Nile. And I'm inclined to say probably like Decapitated, early Decapitated. I love like really angular riffs and like just scary atonal kind of riffs that also are catchy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I know that just kind of contradicted itself, but
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, for sure.
like I also really like how all those bands are focused on like the songwriting aspect, because those are all old school kind of bands, and a lot of the old school kind of bands can also have like 5 or 6 minute songs that just kind of like go on because
Right.
they're less structured. But I really like, especially like how a Cannibal Corpse is able to have like an intro, verse, chorus, bridge, solo kind of thing without having it sound like just a pop song, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, like Pat O'Brien and Rob Barrett from Cannibal Corpse are like two of my guitar heroes of all time. there's not a single Cannibal Corpse riff that I wish I didn't write. Like,
That's fair. And well, it's interesting you bring up Nile too. What do you pull from Nile to be like one of your, or not your influences, but like what about Nile influences you in Cowboy?
I love lore. Like,
Okay.
I love the kind of nerdiness of everything.
Okay.
Especially heavy music, like the being able to like not take yourself seriously while also like writing the best
very
music
serious
as
shit.
that you can, you know, and having like, yeah, like Nile's just based on Egyptian lore, and I think that's really fun, and it like gives it just like another aspect of immersion, which I really like with music.
Well, that's actually a perfect fucking segue. Thank you. 'Cause, I wanted to bring this into the lore behind Aleister Cowboy. I wanted to say, like, from the outside, it seems like you are existing within a universe. All the songs, lyrically, the content is kind of similar. Like, there's a story being told, and, like, I mean, it truly is about, like, relentless repugnance, like, being fucking disgusting.
There's definitely overlapping themes.
So where did that come from? What's all that inspired by?
Relentless Repugnance is a lyric from the song Mold Inoculation, and we just thought that was super heavy and like it would work as a good title.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the chorus kind of section, and just like endless grossness.
But in general, where did that idea start from of like endless grossness or like
Maddie
being
gets
vile?
So Mold Inoculation, basically Maddie gets these allergy shots for cats and dogs and mold and shit. And so I came up with the title Mold Inoculation, just like injecting someone with like a horrible bio weapon, basically, like turning someone into like a disgusting mass of
mold monster.
Yeah. And I don't know, all the songs are kind of just about like killing people or just like grossness,
Disgusting situations.
Yeah, we definitely didn't plan to write like a theme or a narrative, rather. There's definitely a theme, but there's less so of a narrative. It's all kind of grossness, but yeah, they're more or less, they exist together, but
Sure.
not as any sort of linear kind of thing.
Totally. Do you imagine that continuing throughout your guys' future shit, or is that kind of the concept of like the Relentless Repugnance songs, or is it too soon to tell?
We're definitely
It seems like you're all
trying to get grosser.
It seems like you're all pretty excited by the idea of the grossness.
I think that's a great theme.
Yeah.
In death metal especially.
Mm-hmm.
And you
like
always talk about wanting to
sludge
be
and gross
wanting
kinda
to
shit.
write gross, sludgy riffs, so you might as well.
There's
like,
a lot
talk
of
about
great
it.
sludge on the album.
Thank
that
you.
Hits in such a nice way. It's just like feels like you're running through mud or
Dude,
something.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely fun being gross and talking about gross stuff. We're
And
definitely
that shit needs an outlet. Everyone
Yeah.
is gross and feels gross often.
Totally.
But
Right.
it's something we all repress.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like death metal, you can just write about your like intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
And put that shit down and then make like scary riffs over it, and then it sounds crazy. You know.
Which
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah, it sounds crazy. It sounds insane, but it doesn't necessarily sound like too much to like handle all at once, which is also a pretty impressive thing. Like it doesn't ever. I mean, and I'm a metal fan, so it could be easier for me, but I'm never like scared off by anything that's on this EP. It's never
We
just,
definitely
like,
try to
too
be like
much.
pretty catchy.
Yeah, which is super cool because I think the scene got caught up in a little bit in the idea of purposely being not catchy and being like as counter whatever influency is possible. But
Totally.
yeah, it's cool to see you dip your toes into like all those different things at the same time. What where does I forget the song, but there's a song where you say something about pants engorged with cock. Is that on Stealing Teeth?
That would be
or
that's the first
the
track.
first
That's
one?
Days of Sodom.
Okay.
That song was written about the movie Solo, or the 120 Days of Sodom.
Okay.
And do you know what that is?
No, I would love to though.
It's like an Italian exploitation film. I don't know when it's from. But it's pretty horrible. It's just about like rich people like torturing children.
Fuck yeah.
Basically, and Matt wrote the lyrics, and yeah, that line's pretty hilarious. I was worried about my mom getting a copy of the CD, but I don't think she's gonna say anything. But yeah, the lyrics are super fun.
It's such a great line.
It's super fun to be over the top and kind of like just zany with it, you know?
Right.
'Cause,
Well,
like,
in
it's
general, in the way that you conduct yourself in life, you are not that way. So it seems like a very healthy outlet.
yeah, it's like a slasher movie. You can be campy and silly with it, and it still can be what it is, you know?
Yeah, totally.
It's fun to do that. I
And
feel like
it's
it
still
only benefits it.
It's still totally respectable in the context of everything on the album. It's not like a joke. Like,
Well, I'm glad.
yeah, it's very well done. The things that you pulled off, and yeah, I'm sure you'll continue to pull off, are pretty fucking amazing.
That line makes me laugh often.
So I guess kind of not, and this might be a hard question to answer too, but where do you kind of see you guys going next? What's the big thing that you'll do next? Are you just going to be gigging a lot and plug in these songs, or do you want to do like more EPs?
We're definitely going to take a little hibernation and write a little bit. And we're planning on maybe putting out a 2 or 3 song single before the year ends. And yeah, we want to release we want to release as much as possible.
Totally.
Because we played so many shows before we had anything released, and I feel like that only made us a better band than the music we were practicing to play in those shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like our next couple releases will only seem to get better as the band gets better as musicians and as a unit, I feel like. So we're definitely going to do some writing, hopefully put out some songs before the year ends. Yeah, and just keep putting stuff out. I would definitely want to do like another EP and some splits with some people.
Do you see yourself
along the line?
Yeah, do you see yourself getting into the splits anytime soon? Because that could be very, very interesting for you.
That would be
guys.
very fun. We haven't made any plans yet, so probably not until next year, but it's definitely something I would be very, very interested in.
Hell yeah.
A lot of good bands.
Yeah, there are a lot. Were there any? I had this written down. I wasn't sure if you had any bands in like the scene that you wanted to shout out specifically. Like, I know 10 to the Chest is a big one. They've been super helpful.
10 to the Chest. Fort Collins wise, I'm gonna say Chain Mace. We formed at about the same time, which was really cool. Two new death metal bands forming at like the same time and putting out music together was really cool. They put out their EP a few months before ours, and then we put ours out just a couple weeks ago. But it's been super cool to have like 2 new bands existing at the same time and being able to play shows. We just played a show together for the first time on the 29th, and that was amazing.
And that was my first time really. I mean, I didn't know who Chain Mace was before that, but they're very good. Like, and I did not know that they were also like a new band. That's one thing. Seeing you guys, and I'm pretty sure I've said a variation of this, but like just seeing you guys live, if I had not known any of the things that you just have told us, then like I would have assumed you guys have been around for a long fucking time. because that's just the vibe of like professionality that you give off. And Chainmace was like in the same way, where it's like they really came out and just owned their shit. Like
They're super great. They're
Yeah.
Shout out Danny. Shout out Steven. Shout out Matt. They're from Matt's from sings in Old Skin.
oh, okay.
Steven plays guitar in a Wolf Blitzer as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Shit.
yeah.
Shout out Wolf Blitzer.
Shout out
Wolf Blitzer
shout out
is
Wolf
fucking
Blitzer.
sick.
They just put out a new EP on Friday. Super
Yeah.
badass.
I listened to part of it.
Danny
That's badass.
Danny from Chainmace recorded and produced that as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, shout out Old Skin. Love Old Skin. Super sick, super heavy. Stoner sludge. Need that in all the like the psych rock kind of worlds that exist in Fort Collins.
Yeah, a
It's
little
definitely
bit more
nice to
stoner.
have a heavy one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And
Shout out Wolf Blitzer.
yeah, shout out Wolf Blitzer. Did you have any sort of ideas like where you wanted to fit into the scene before you broke into the scene, or was it kind of just
We just
shooting your
not
shot,
really. We
doing what
really
you
just
wanted
wanted
to
to. I haven't been like in the scene or the community or whatever for very long. Like I've only lived in Fort Collins for about like 2.5 years at this point. So and I've only been in this band for almost a year now. And we kind of just wanted to just be a death metal band and just do that and basically maybe build onto that and obviously make connections within the existing music scene, but mainly kind of build up some extreme music stuff that wasn't there before.
Did you know what like the landscape of the scene here looked like before you were in Aleister Cowboy, or were you trying to?
I think Maddie and Raina did playing in other bands, but I didn't have too much of a frame of reference. I'd been to a couple shows, but that was about it. And yeah, we kind of just wanted to put out some music as a death metal band and do that whole thing without worrying about too much of what everyone else was doing, kinda.
Sure.
Where are you
Just
from
be able
originally?
to do our own thing.
And
I'm
what's your
from-
social security number?
My address is I'm from Broomfield.
Oh, okay, right
So middle of the state kinda. And I moved up to Fort Collins, like 2.5 years ago.
Cool.
Just on my own, and then met Maddie and everything, and yeah. But we didn't really know anyone, and we just wanted to just make music and find some shows to play,
And it had been like a goal of yours to be in some sort of project one way or another for a while, right?
Oh yeah, I've played guitar for probably like 10 years now, and drums for probably like 5 or 6 maybe, and
Always with the goal of wanting to do.
I've always wanted to make my own music and
Mm-hmm.
perform it on stage in a band.
So why? I mean, other than the fact that Maddie pitched it, I guess, what do you think made you like want to do it with Maddie as like a first endeavor?
Honestly, I just trusted him with. He said he had a death metal EP written, and I was just like, yes, okay, I'm down.
Yeah.
I love death metal, so nice. And that was pretty much it. Like I'd only known him for like a few weeks
Mm-hmm.
before he pitched the EP with me, and then we just started jamming and made it happen.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Did you grow up a metal kid? Were you always into metal? Is that
Oh,
why
yeah.
you started playing guitar as well?
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
my mom. Shout out my mom. She put me on a lot of cool music really early, like
Nice.
Master of Puppets. I had 3 albums on my first iPod. I had License to Ill by
Nice.
Beastie Boys.
That's great.
I had Dookie by Green Day, and I had Master of Puppets.
Wow.
And Master of Puppets was my favorite one of them. I would listen to it the most times of all of them, because I just liked. I don't know why, but I liked the aggression and the riffs, and
That's my
It's like-
favorite Metallica album.
I think it's mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the production on Ride the Lightning more. I like the guitar sound. I think it sounds more raw and like slightly less produced, and I think that does them a favor. But Master of Puppets has immense songwriting.
Maybe Justice for All is. Nah, I'll say Master of Puppets.
But yeah,
Saint Anger, baby.
Yeah.
I've always
I know
been
that's
into heavy
yours.
music, and then from there I just started listening to more like punk and hardcore kind of stuff and exploring more music. And then in 6th grade I found Cannibal Corpse, and I listened to Hammer Smash Face, and I was like scared at first. I was like, I didn't know music could sound like that, but I kept going back to it because there was like a shock factor for me, and like there's something alluring about it, and that became my favorite band of all time, Cannibal Corpse. And yeah, the rest is history.
Right on.
So, I mean, I always kind of have this backwards. I always thought that you kind of started in the punk universe and crossed over into metal, but it sounds like metal, thrash specifically, kind of set the stage for everything else.
Definitely like thrash and like 80s hardcore were like, that was like as heavy as I got before I found Cannibal Corpse. And then Cannibal Corpse, like I had to just find out like everything death metal from that point, and I kind of didn't explore hardcore as much. Like I'm like, I love them both. They're probably like my 2 favorite genres. But yeah, when I found death metal, it was like everything else was out. It had to be heavy, and it had to have blast beats. Otherwise I wasn't going to listen to it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that portion of it phased out of my life, and I can listen to other things.
outside of that.
It's cool too because you don't even, it's not even that you're like listening to other things, but the way that you play is like a fusion of all those things.
Just totally.
What sort of hardcore are you getting into these days?
Pain of Truth.
Okay.
They're like a northeastern band. They're like kind of Hatebreed style, like angry man mosh parts. They're super killer. God's Hate is super crazy. Amazing mosh parts. Who else? Terror is crazy. Mind Force. They're a newer kind of band comprised of like kind of old heads. They're absolutely nuts. Fort Collins wise, Ruckus. Shout out Ruckus. Shout out Watching People Drown. Love those guys. Shout out Wolf Blitzer. Shout out Copper Teeth.
Copper Teeth is cool, yeah.
There's a lot of good hardcore in Fort Collins.
There is. It's interesting.
I hope I'm not forgetting anybody.
No, it's interesting, like, out of all the, like, kind of heavier sub-variants of music, that hardcore is the one that's been in Fort Collins for, like, the longest. Like, back when we were in high school, hardcore was, like, pretty much the biggest scene that we had in Fort Collins.
My high school band, who was not hardcore at all, would open for hardcore shows all the time. And I remember the first time being intimidated. I was like, they're going to fucking hate us. Why are we doing this? And it couldn't have been a better show.
Yeah.
Everyone came over and was
out.
like, you guys are dope. That was awesome. And then, someone came on after us, super fucking heavy, and killed it.
Yeah.
There's an art to like a super mixed bill. If it's done well, it can be a super killer show.
Yeah.
Like,
no, they were always fun.
Like the show that Maddie and I met at was Gatecreeper, Fearing, who's like an goth, like an 80s goth kind of sounding band, like synth.
That's cool.
Goth kind of band, and then another shoegaze band, and then 200 Stab Wounds.
Nice.
And they were layered, so it was like shoegaze, death metal, shoegaze, death metal. And that was super interesting.
Yeah,
and that
it's
like
a good flow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
That kind of gave me the idea to play the show with Foreign Words.
Hell yeah.
Which
was probably our best show that we've played so far. So
that was so much fun. Yeah, of course. I was like, I think this is a perfect mix.
Well, it's kind of a similar thing that you're describing too. Like, we made the mistake of playing after them, and we were just like, fuck, we can't follow that. Like,
No,
everyone's
it
gonna
was
fucking
killer.
hate us.
I think,
And then after we finished the set, everyone actually said it was good, and it was kind
Dude,
of one of
it
those
was-
like, oh shit.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
it worked.
But
Yeah, you guys are heavy as fuck.
it was
and you
fun.
rock.
Thank you. It was very fun, and we definitely need to do it again sometime.
I'd love
'cause
to.
It would very much help boost our fucking career, if nothing else. So I guess kind of get to a point where we can start to wrap this up, but I know you also as an individual listen to like a whole lot of different types of music. It's not just like metal and hardcore are like the only two things you're into. What do you find yourself like pulling influence from other than those two types of things? I mean, if the answer is nothing, then that's fucking great too, but
My favorite non-metal guitar player is Chris Hanna from Propagandhi. I think his like understanding of the guitar and songwriting is like just super next level and really commendable, and I really enjoy his approach. It's like his guitar playing has like its own voicing within the song beyond a riff. You know, it like carries more weight than that in the context of the song, and I feel like that's super important in like guitar driven music like hardcore death metal. And I think that's like a super important factor, like it not just being like a riff, but it basically being the foundation of the song, and then like the drums and the vocals kind of forming around that. I think is super important for like I said, guitar based music. That's a good question.
I wanted to give you a thinker.
Honestly, Boston is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Okay.
And just like how cohesive they have so many parts I really like. And like that was the first time I ever heard guitar harmonies.
Guitarmony.
That was the first ever guitar harmony I ever heard was the song Peace of Mind. And I was so hooked on that. And I was like, why wouldn't you do harmonies if you have two guitar players? And I that's a lot. We put a lot of guitar harmonies on there. And I just always have Boston in my mind because they shred.
Yeah.
I love Boston too.
Boston's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of fucking great guitar harmony in Boston, and it's kind of a funny parallel that I would have not really pulled from the two, but
Are you guys familiar
Yeah.
with the idea of a blood harmony? It's just something
What does that mean?
It's when siblings harmonize, or people who are related by bloodline harmonize.
Whoa.
And the lore is that there's something fundamentally better about siblings or blood relatives harmonizing.
Like with your voice
Voice. Or perhaps
Or
a
guitar.
guitar harmony.
or anything.
A blood guitar harmony.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I would love to be in like a band with my sister.
Yeah.
I don't think she'd be.
That's
about
why
it, though.
Oasis is so good, Julian.
Oh shit.
you got any Oasis
The boys.
thoughts?
I only know the song, the Wonderwall song.
That's
Wonderwall.
all you need to know by Oasis.
It's usually overrated. They have a much better back catalog than that.
Shut
Okay.
the fuck up, bitch.
I'm going to title this episode Oasis.
It's a surefire way to get
so it goes
0
crazy.
listeners.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
We met at a time when you were going through like somewhat of a rap phase. Do you find yourself inspired by rap still, or?
Yeah, definitely. In the vocal delivery, I'm glad you asked that because I wouldn't have brought that up. I forgot about that. But the vocal delivery and like rhythm-based vocal delivery, I think, is super important in death metal, because if you can't hear what the lyrics are, then the next thing that people are going to grasp onto is how you're saying the things. So if you say them in a way that's catchy or accessible to people, then that's what they're going to catch on to, you know? And it's similar, like in rap, you say things that are going to like sound the best way, you know?
Totally.
To say things.
Yeah.
So they can really grab onto people.
That's
And, like,
interesting.
Yeah, I really like a rhythmic attack with vocals. That's super important.
And there's also just the notion of kind of saying and doing whatever the fuck you want in rap, and I feel like that kind of bleeds over into some of the more heavy metal universe as well.
Totally, kind of like it's like any form of like extreme expression. It's like it's kind of a character at some point.
Totally.
Like the tough hardcore guy or like the scary death metal person. It's like it is kind of just like something you play into because it's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
and not more or less of not who you actually are as a person.
And they've both been genres that have been sort of like unacceptable by the mainstream in the past.
Totally.
Like, you know, on the fringes of society.
Yep. To just like push boundaries and like be extreme to be extreme.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That's a really good way
without it being
putting it.
Just pointless, you know.
Yeah. It's definitely not pointless. There's definitely a lot of very thoughtful intention behind all of it. That satisfies my fucking whole entire questions list. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I feel good
Dude,
about
of
that.
course. Thanks for preparing so much for me.
Yeah, of course. I've had a lot of genuine questions kind of since the beginning, and I think it's fun. It's always really refreshing and just honestly good to know that there's other people in the scene who like put as much thought into what they're doing as like you would hope, because it seems like a lot of the times people are just releasing shit for the sake of releasing shit. This vibe is like completely different. It's like you guys very intentionally thought out what you wanted to do and like how the way that you wanted it to be received, and I feel like from the outside that's like kind of exactly how it went down. And like the expectations I had for the show before I went to the show were like medium to high, and like I was still like blown out of the water. Like you guys continue to be super impressive, and the way that you like rule the scene is just fucking cool.
Hey, thanks, dude.
And I hope you guys continue.
Do you
to
have
do
any
it.
shows in the near future to plug, or are you just focused on writing like you're saying?
We right now we're basically just we got the Relentless Repugnance EP out on all streaming services. We got a CD on Bandcamp. That's it for the time being. We're gonna enter a sewer somewhere in an undisclosed location and write some riffs.
Hell yeah.
Some grimy riffs, slimy songs to put out in the near future. We kind of just wanted to just put out something that we all wanted to listen to because we fuck with it without any kind of consideration for how it would be received or who it would be received by. It's kind of just like a creative burn to suffice for us, which was it feels really good to have it out and have it be expressed. You know?
Yeah, it seems it kind of it feels exactly that way. So mad props to you guys.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else? Any questions, comments?
No, brother. We covered everything. Thanks so much for being on the pod again.
Thanks for having me.
We got to do another one in the future.
Yeah.
We could talk
down.
more hardcore punk later on.
I'm super down.
Yeah, that'd be a fun episode to do.
Hell yeah.
We'll do an 80s hardcore punk episode and
I'm super down.
Yeah.
Just have a Master of Puppets episode.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Metallica discography episode.
We live watch some kind of monster.
I don't know if I ever need to do that to myself again.
I've seen it 3 times at this point. I feel
only
like we
gets
talked
better.
about that a lot earlier.
I think so
yeah.
too.
You only
It
notice more about it the more
Exactly.
time you watch it. It's a
masterpiece.
true
Yeah.
masterpiece.
It really is.
Props to them for putting that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I said to Julian. I was like, it's amazing what pieces of shit they all look like, and they still all agreed.
Yeah, it made them all look just absolutely awful.
Especially Lars. But
Yeah.
that's natural, I guess.
I think Lars just likes it because of how much his face is in it.
Yeah.
That's all he really seems to notice.
Yeah, the camera crew takes a liking to him in that film. He's an endless
It's definitely a spectacle. Him and Dave Mustaine in that movie both have like the most emotion based.
Yeah, when
scenes.
Mustaine comes on, it's great. It's crazy. It's just so honest.
He comes on talking about almost crying
Yeah.
after seeing Kurt Cobain or
Kirk Hammett.
It's like Kurt Cobain. What are you
After
doing
seeing
here?
Kirk Hammett play whatever fucking solo,
Uh-huh.
I think that's also hilarious that he didn't tell them to take that out.
Yeah.
He's like the pettiest dude ever. Megadeth is sick band. It's like the pettiest band in existence. It was formed out of spite.
Straight. Yeah, it's a spite band.
Yeah.
Spite band.
And
Absolutely.
and
We love a good spite band.
it's
That's
it's
so
crazy.
funny that you're charging your vape with the same thing
It
you
won't
just had your
work.
laptop plugged into.
I was like, maybe this will work, but
Yeah.
nope, no bite. It's okay.
Fact that you would even
Cross
try
my
that.
mind.
Yeah. Well, it's even a possibility that USB-C is that ubiquitous.
Apparently not, though. All right. Well, shit. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
Relentless Repugnance out everywhere.
Yes.
Go
Check
listen
it
to
out.
Aleister Cowboy. Yep.
Best local release of the year so far.
Thanks
and
for having me.
probably will be. Yes.
Shout
anytime.
out
Come
Chain
back.
Mace. Shout out Watching People Drown. Shout out Wolf Blitzers. Shout out every so many bands.
Honestly, shout out 10 to the Chest, too.
Shout
I know
out
we
10 to the
shouted them
Chest. Shout out
but
Trey.
yeah, 10 to the Chest. They fucking rule. That was my first time seeing them live at that show, and they lived up to all of the hype that everyone else had built around them. They're so fucking cool. And
Scary band.
yeah, just I was terrified in the audience.
Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna get hurt, but it's gonna be cool."
So, yeah, one of my favorite releases of this year thus far, for sure.
Yeah, the song "Hash Driveway" fucking rips.
They have me
Glass in the
do the feature on
Yeah,
Hash Driveway,
the
which was a lot of fun.
yeah,
at the show.
that was so cool. And my favorite part was as soon as you said, I can't remember exactly what you said, but we were out in the main area and you were like, you were basically just, I'm gonna be doing a song with them, so come in there. You like walked in there and then like 10 people immediately followed you in there. And I was like, I gotta fucking get in there, man. Holy shit.
That's awesome.
I was so nervous. I like had to tell everybody.
Well, you pulled it off. It was fucking
It was
sick.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. Cool.
Right on. Thanks for listening, everybody. And go check out Aleister Cowboy. Goodbye.
Bitch.